Let's do it.
We are live.
OKC's plus 240 to repeat as champions next year.
That's it? Only plus 240? What were the Celtics to repeat? Do we know?
That's so ridiculous. I think it was like around the same thing, like plus 250. It was damn close.
Yeah, it's pretty fair, though.
It's just not going to happen, though.
We'll talk about it. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. I don't know. Either way, we're live right now. Hop in the chat. Go on the YouTube right now. All right. I need to fix the YouTube, and we'll be rocking and rolling here in about like 1 minute. Connor. It's been forever since we've done a podcast, Connor. I am so excited to talk.
Have I been on since the finals preview?
I don't think. Maybe.
I don't think I've been on since
not.
the finals preview.
We haven't done one since game. Who knows? It's been busy. I was in the middle of nowhere the last week. I was in the middle of nowhere, Oregon. Had basically no internet. It was.
Yeah, no, it's fine. You just don't. Your love for the game is gone.
Oh, that's not true. We're gonna be here for 2 hours. I'm telling you, we're gonna be here for 2 hours.
We better not be here for 2 effing hours.
We're gonna be here for 2 hours. Call in sick to work tomorrow. You're not.
I told
going
Alexis. Told Alexis it's gonna be a long one.
It's gonna be a long one. It's gonna be a very long one, but I'm telling you, man, we've got a lot to get to.
We're starting with Durant, right?
No, we haven't talked since Desmond Bain. We have to start there.
Chronological order. We'll get to the finals in about an hour and a half.
Yeah, that works. Okay. All right. I think we're good to go. So, you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's go. We're live. 3, 2, 1. We're live. We're live right now, recording June 22nd, Sunday, after 11 p.m. I don't know where I'm at in the country right now. I'm in the middle of a cross-country move right now. I don't know who I am, where I am, or what I'm at, but I do know the Oklahoma City Thunder clinched the 2025 NBA championship in Game 7 tonight. There is so much to get to, Connor. We have so much to talk about. We haven't done a podcast in ages. We have trades to talk about. We have the draft to talk about later. But obviously, we're going to start off in Game 7. I want to start here because I think it's totally unfair otherwise to do anything else. You have to start off the show with giving the Thunder credit. They came out and won Game 7. They're the NBA champs. And frankly, they were the best team in the NBA this season. That has to be the narrative. Now we'll get into are they an all-time NBA champ and all this stuff. We'll get into that stuff later. But for now, credit to the Thunder. You know what? I don't like watching the Thunder half-court offense that much, Connor. You, as more than anybody, knows that. But you got to give them credit. And if you're an OKC fan and you've been a fan your whole life, I mean, I guess that would be 2007, 2008. Either way, though. This is awesome. This is awesome for them, and great for them. It just sucks how it happened in Game 7, to be honest.
It does suck how it happened, but you're right. The Thunder deserve all the credit, all the flowers in the world. This is an all-time season with the MVP, the scoring leader, and now the Finals MVP, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. And the road to get here wasn't, there were bumps. There were bumps in the road. It was rocky in the road to get here, but they pulled it out. And you're right. No matter the circumstances, which we'll get into, they won Game 7 of the NBA Finals, which is a tough thing to do no matter who's on the other side. So you're right. I think starting the show, giving all the credit in the world to them is the right thing to do. And they won, you heard ESPN broadcast mention it a few times. They were a 24-25 win team 3 years ago.
Well, they tanked, and that's bullcrap. That's such a phony stat because they bench Shai the whole. That's crap. Also,
but still, to come from a rebuild and it actually worked this quickly, I think that's impressive.
Is it? How much? I mean, yeah, it's impressive.
They're ahead of schedule.
Yeah, they're ahead of schedule. Good for them.
This is Chet's second season. Chet's played 110 regular season games. I don't think anybody thought they would be here this soon.
Yeah,
when you saw them in the playing game a couple years ago, did you think, hey, in 2 years they're going to win an NBA title? I did not.
I'll tell you what though. Well, I texted you this maybe a week ago. I don't know time anymore. There's going to be a Chet conversation about, do you actually want to give him that much money? But that's not for tonight. Tonight's about enjoying the Thunder winning the title and everything for them. Credit to the Thunder. Chet actually played pretty well tonight. 18 points, 8 rebounds, 6 of 8 from the field. 5 blocks too, and they were.
Yeah,
I mean, you felt those blocks tonight too.
you did.
Where do you want to start from this game, though? Credit to the Thunder, they won it. Do we start with Halliburton going down?
I think we have to, because the narrative you're going to see all over social media and all the talk shows and everything is going to be, what if Halliburton didn't blow out his Achilles, 6 minutes into the game? That's going to be the narrative. Don't you agree? There's going to be so much chatter about that.
Yeah, it's gonna be. Does First Take tomorrow lead with the Thunder, or do they lead with what is there an asterisk on this title?
I think they might lead with Durant.
Yeah, because he was traded today, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They might leave with Durant. No.
A-block might be Durant.
The
Lakers getting sold?
They're having a meeting right now. That might be the B block. The finals might not come up till the C block, the 7-minute C block before the half hour. No. I want to start here. The Halliburton injury, so many times in sports, but especially the NBA, it feels like series, championships are decided by injuries and who's able to stay healthy for 2 straight months in the NBA playoffs. There's so much that is swung by that. In 2019, Toronto wins the NBA championship. They really had no business winning that title. If Clay and Kevin Durant don't go down, the Warriors probably win that title in 5 games. Wouldn't you say?
They win that title, yeah, maybe in 4.
And do we have people screaming there's an asterisk beside the Raptors title? No. People praise Kawhi Leonard because he went to Toronto. Well, not the general public, though.
I think the general public has a fine understanding that the 19 title has an asterisk on it.
I just have a feeling that this title by the Thunder, people are going to be freaking out saying asterisk, worst NBA title in history and most fraudulent title in history.
No.
I can't get behind that. Yeah, people are going to say that. I promise.
I think people will say that over the next 2.5, 3 days until there's a big trade for everybody to start talking about that once they're done with talking about the Thunder. I feel like this is going to be done being talked about by Tuesday.
Maybe so. I don't know. I just feel like this is going to be taken and ran with because it's kind of a trend to hate on the Thunder this year. As great as they've been with but there's the foul baiting, there's the Caruso Dort getting away with a lot on defense, a lot of hands on defense, and it's a trend to hate on the Thunder and hate on SGA. So I feel like that's going to lead to a lot of asterisk talk.
I
don't agree with it. I don't agree with it at all.
I mean, some people did that last year with the Celtics, though, and that ended really quickly, where the Celtics had an easy path, and then they didn't have to play anybody, blah, blah, blah.
You're probably
right. They're still NBA champs. No one actually remembers. No one actually cares. Everyone's just going to remember the Thunder won the 25 NBA title. The Celtics won the 24 NBA title. I still think everyone's going to remember the Raptors 19 and those injuries, and I think everyone's going to always remember the bubble.
Yeah, the bubble for sure. That'll go.
The bubble has probably has the biggest asterisk by the general public.
Yeah, I think you're right. But going back to tonight, the timing absolutely sucks. First quarter of a Game 7 in the NBA Finals, right after Halliburton nails 3 straight threes. It was looking like we're going to get an all-timer, maybe an all-time Halliburton game. Timing's brutal, but this is the story almost every season. Would the Pacers have won if he didn't get hurt? Maybe. But maybe not. I'm not going to sit here and discredit the Thunder's championship tonight just because of that injury. I don't want to take anything away from them, which is why we started the show giving them credit. And does it suck in every way possible? Absolutely. But the Thunder, the Pacers would have won with him. Maybe. We can say maybe. The Thunder looked tight to start that game. But I'm not going to invalidate this whole NBA regular season and playoff run by the Thunder just because of a horrible Halliburton Achilles pop 6 minutes into the game.
No, I'm not either, but it does suck. That's the whole thing.
It sucks bad.
And it sucks if you're a Pacers fan because you just went on arguably the most insane run in the NBA playoffs we've ever seen. Something like this we've never seen before, and you were so close, especially in Game 4. That's what you're really going to look back. Now, you're going to look back on the Achilles, obviously, and then you're going to also look back on, man, we had Game 4. We had Game 4 in Indianapolis, and it was right there. And that's going to sting for a long time because now, if it's confirmed that it's a torn Achilles, which it seems like it is, all of a sudden you go, it's scary hours for the Pacers where you go, look, I know we were saying they were frauds after the Eastern Conference Finals stuff. We were obviously proven wrong on that. But now you go into next year and you go, oh no, what's it going to look like for the Indiana Pacers? They just played an absurdly long season, the longest possible season you can possibly play at this point. Plus, you just lost your best player to the worst injury possible on the last game of the season. As far as it goes, he's going to be, if it's a torn Achilles, he's not playing next season, and your season's a wash next year. And that just shows how hard it is to get here, how brutal it is, and I think it's a really sad time for the Indiana Pacers, to be honest, even though this run was something nobody will ever forget.
I completely agree that, tonight didn't just end the 25 season for the Pacers. It ended the 2025-2026 season as well, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Because without
it's like the Celtics.
Without Halliburton for an entire regular season next year, you're right. The season's a wash. Maybe they're a play-in team. I don't know. I mean, they could be even worse than that. I don't want to talk about next season, but it does feel like a dark time as a Pacers fan because you got so close and you got to Game 7, one game away from an NBA championship with this group, and now it feels like the window has slammed shut. And this iteration of the Pacers, I don't see them getting back here, unfortunately. As fun as they are, as magical of a run as this was, without Halliburton next year, and then there's a lot of decisions to make money-wise, role player guys. Like, this was the perfect storm, the perfect season of guys stepping up in this playoff run, guys playing above their means. Miles Turner, Aaron Nesmith, Andrew Nembhard, Mathurin, Obi Toppin, McConnell. A lot of those guys peaked in these playoffs. And, there's going to be regression to the mean there. That's not necessarily who they are. And if you're a Pacers fan, it sucks because it was a double whammy because it was the end of this season and the end of any momentum you had going into next year.
Yeah, it's a killer. It's an absolute killer. And
it sucks.
Kind of like you were saying how these guys peaked. I don't think this is replicable, but
I don't think so either. In
this
this era of parity, when are we going to see? I don't even know if the Thunder get back here next year. Like, they're like plus 250 to win the title next year. I think that's absurd. I think we could have two
look at all
year.
These other teams right now. And honestly, in both the conferences are making moves. We don't know what impact dudes from the draft are going to have going into next season. What trades are going to come if one of these other East teams go for it, like a Detroit team. We already seen the Magic. I mean, you feel a heck of even after this game. Let's say the Pacers lose this game, Halliburton's healthy and everything. You still don't feel great about the Pacers making it back here because it still felt like such an anomaly.
The East is wide ass open with the Tatum injury, with the Halliburton injury, with Giannis trade rumors, whether or not he leaves or goes. The East is open.
I don't think he is.
I don't think he leaves either. But the East is wide open. And just to come full circle on what you said about Game 4, the Pacers had 1 point in the last 3 minutes and 20 seconds of Game 4 with a chance to go up 3-1 on their home court. That was it.
Yep.
That was the championship. For them to get to Game 7, I thought was not a miracle, but I thought, wow, they're pretty lucky to get to a Game 7 after blowing that. I thought that was their best chance.
It sucks. It sucks.
It does suck.
I feel sick for Pacers fans because also they played such a fun brand of basketball, but
they feel like a March Madness team. They feel like a March Madness team, the Pacers did.
Yeah, because we don't see Cinderella runs, and then we got to finally see it. Let's hit the chat real quick. Shout out Bet with the Boys. Could the Air Ballers have won Game 7 tonight versus the Thunder? Connor, you answer that one.
Yeah, for those that don't know, that is our Knoxville, Tennessee Rec League team, the Air Ballers, who picked up our first win today. So shout out to Air Ballers. No,
give me the stat line.
Game 7. For me, I think I had like 11 and a million rebounds, 11 points and a million rebounds today. First win, though.
Million. Yeah. Christian in the chat, 24-25 sports calendar year is officially over exactly 2 months and 1 day from now. The 25-26 sports season starts with week 0 college football.
2 months.
That's a sad thought. We'll get to that later. I don't want to talk about that right now. We have a lot more to talk about. Christian also said Eastern Conference is where Achilles go to die with Lillard, Tatum, and Halliburton now. You know the old NBA commercials with the piano playing, like where magic happens or whatever, where amazing happens rather. Now it's just where Achilles go down. That's the commercial.
That's tough. Conspiracy Connor time. All three of those guys, what jersey number do they wear? Number 0.
0.
Just saying. Tinfoil hat.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, imagine if they all wore the number 6.
Yeah, then we'd have to have a conversation.
We'd have some Illuminati conversations here on the podcast. But yeah,
I want to keep talking about the game itself.
Yeah, let's get into the game. I have a bunch of notes from it as well. What do you want to hit?
First thing, points off turnovers, Thunder 32, Pacers 10. Difference in the game right there is really what it was. And especially when Halliburton goes down, you felt it. The pace he plays at, the passing he does, the non-turnovers that he makes, like the way he runs that offense, you really felt that when he went down. And we knew you would feel it. But with guys like Nembhard and McConnell, there's positives, but there's negatives. Like you have McConnell who scored 12 straight points in the third quarter, but he has, 6 or 7 turnovers to close the game.
And they were costly, too. They were very terrible costly times. And the other thing, And the other thing is, I know the offensive rebound battle wasn't super decisive. Thunder won 13-12, but it was the timing of those offensive rebounds. It felt like every time the Thunder when Dort would swoop in and get an offensive rebound, it felt like a major rebound and a super deflating. It would be super deflating for the Pacers because it felt like a miracle every time they got a stop on the Thunder, and the fact they couldn't get those defensive rebounds was super depressing if you're a Pacers fan watching that. The other thing I had written down in this game, Connor, Lou Dort's prayer. I think everybody in the country, in the world watching this game, when Lou Dort hit that prayer to start the second half, I think everybody had the same collective thought and goes, yeah, this one's over.
Did that shot bounce off the rafters? Did that hit off one of the banners hanging up there? That was a moon ball. The camera angle barely got it. You're right, though. When that went in, that was ball game. And Lou Dort, even aside from that play, so many huge plays. Offensive rebounds, steals, tip passes, keeping plays alive. The Thunder might not win that game without him, genuinely. And he's the kind of the scapegoat where, the Thunder need to get below the second apron. They're going to trade Lou Dort this summer. They're going to get rid of Lou Dort this summer. He made a lot of big plays for that Thunder team tonight.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he did. And then also the J-Dub 3 that rolled in middle in the third quarter. That I thought was another just gut punch right there. And then you talk about the turnovers. I think that is truly the difference in the game. To add on top of that, during that stretch too, and I think this is where a lot of it happened. The stretch from 8:32 left in the third quarter to halfway through the fourth, basically, where nobody on the Pacers scored outside of T.J. McConnell's 10 points. That's the game fell apart right there.
It was the longest scoring drought in Game 7 history in the playoffs, which is funny because the Thunder had the longest drought in Game 7 history, like the first quarter, the end of the first quarter, whenever that was, second quarter, and then the Pacers broke that record literally the same game. So I think I saw that stat on Twitter. But yeah, it's just without Halliburton out there, what we've been so accustomed to in this Indiana Pacers magical playoff run and into the regular season, we've been so accustomed to guys stepping up, role guys stepping up, 2, 3, 4 guys off the bench or, one of those lesser starters stepping up and having a big game. There just wasn't that presence tonight. Miles Turner was non-existent. As the playoffs progressed, he became more and more just a disappearing act. He had 4 shots tonight. Aaron Nesmith not hitting shots. He was 1 for 5 tonight. Just guys that Obi Toppin had a horrible game tonight. Guys that have typically stepped up for the Pacers during this magical run just didn't have it tonight. And when Halliburton goes down, when your number one option, your offensive initiator goes down like that, you have to have the role guys step up. And they didn't tonight. They picked a bad time to not step up.
No. But when you watched that game and you saw Halliburton go down, did you have, even though we've seen the Pacers' dark voodoo magic, did you really have any faith that these other guys would step up in those spots?
No, and I really didn't, because a lot of times when those guys do have bigger games, when they have big moments and big shots, it's off a Halliburton pass. It's off a Halliburton fast break. It's off Halliburton penetration in the lane. When you've got Andrew Nembhard dancing outside, taking a step back 3, or Miles Turner just sitting in the corner, non-existent, it's not the same. It's not the same offensive, free-flowing movement that the Pacers are used to.
You might want to ramp up the Miles Turner trade machine again.
He's been on the Pacers 10 years. It's just over. I mean, he was great for them. This was kind of a peak run. He was great early in the playoffs, a lot during the regular season. But I'm telling you, as the playoffs progressed, I forgot he was playing. Seriously, he played. Ugh.
Doesn't he feel like a Laker? That every Laker fan talks themselves into. It's like, oh my gosh, look how we can space the floor now. Look at his blocks. He was on a finals team this past season.
Look at his highlight tape. And then when things go bad, he's the scapegoat. Like, oh, he's so soft. He's non-existent. Where's Miles Turner? They're all
gonna go from Jared Allen to we're getting Miles Turner.
But that's why this run was so fun. Is because guys like Miles Turner, Aaron Nesmith, Nembhard, these guys stepped up. Obi Toppin, major factors in a championship. Made the championship team, and that's something you would never have thought of 2-3 years ago for any of these guys.
Yeah, I have some other. Let me get to some other notes from this game tonight. Yeah. The Lou Dort prayer had that written down. The T.J. McConnell scoring drought, that was rough. The Obi Toppin minutes were not great. Speaking of Obi Toppin, that was he looked like he'd never dribbled a basketball before. He looked insanely nervous out there and beyond out of control. And then on top of that, I guess you could parlay that into the Bryant Bradley minutes. That was Rick Carlisle was on his knees praying to any higher power he could think of, looking for answers.
Which, that actually leads in, that's a good point, Karter, because those minutes were horrible. Tony Bradley is, Tar Heel, love the guy, but there's a reason he was in the G League in January. Family, that's right. There's a reason he was in the G League in January. He's barely played in the NBA the last 2 years. There's a reason Thomas Bryant is on the vet minimum. Like, these guys aren't rotational bigs, and it sucks for the Pacers because those minutes should be taken up by Isaiah Jackson or even James Wiseman, who had an Achilles. Unfortunately, that seems to be a theme tonight. But like they're on their third and fourth backup big man options. So you kind of get what you have.
Andrew in the chat said, I thought they'd step up, speaking of the Pacers role guys, because once Halliburton went down, they became a team of destiny like Kevin Ware in Louisville. And I'm watching the Thunder I'm watching the Thunder celebration right now. Kind of weak in the locker room.
They're almost too nonchalant.
Yeah, I don't like that. It's like they're kind of too cool for school, it seemed like. I didn't like that too much. I didn't like it when Jokic did it either. That pissed me off when he was like, oh, yeah, I guess I won the ring. Now I go back and ride horses. Like, shut up. Act like you care. I know you care. Don't pretend. You don't play this sport your entire life to not care about winning a title. Stop that.
And the Thunder, like, their whole shtick is like, oh, nonchalant, no pressure, and we're unfazed. That's all fine and dandy. I really thought they might let their walls down a little bit when they won the effing NBA championship, show a little emotion, get excited.
Yeah, Lisa Salters got bodied by J-Dub in the post game. She was like, how does this feel? And he goes, pretty good. And that was it. And she was stumbling on the question. She was having a rough time up there. The ESPN broadcast, did you hear when Doris Burke gave TJ McConnell credit for taking the 5-second call? You had the game on mute.
I did. No. I had it on. I actually did hear that. I didn't really make a mental note of it, though. I think it was instead of like forcing it and leading to a live ball turnover, maybe.
What are we thinking here? You give yourself a chance. I don't care if you're giving up a live ball turnover.
Throw it under your own basket or something.
Throw it anywhere. Throw it near one of your players. That I don't care if you're giving up a live ball turnover. You were down 9 or 10 points at that point. You need every single potential possession you can get, and just giving it up. And she was like, "Yeah, Doris Burke, rough playoffs for her, rough season for Doris Burke. Let's not sugarcoat it anymore."
Did you miss Mark Jackson and Van Gundy?
I wanted to hear Mark Jackson talking about LeBron's mom or LeBron's wife or whoever on the podcast on the broadcast tonight. I wanted to hear anything else. I thought Richard Jefferson was honestly fine, and I actually did like. I thought some of his anecdotes were pretty good, talking about him playing in this exact game basically as well, and talking about the nerves and everything.
And I thought that was actually 3 finals, so he's been there.
Yeah, and. Yeah, I think the whole ESPN thing, I know everyone was crapping on the halftime show. It was just commercial after commercial after commercial after commercial. But you can tell, I bet ESPN knew coming into the season that they had the TNT thing locked up with inside the NBA. And they go, we'll just punt on this season. Just, look, we're not going to spend a lot of money. We're not going to put a lot into the production. We'll just wait until the following season.
I'll be interested to see NBC's production next year. See how it compares. Because people are going to be all
and Amazon too.
Up. Yeah, correct. I'm interested to see what it's like.
I am too.
One thing I wrote down, did you start sweating a little bit when the Thunder called their last time out and Shea had 5 fouls with over 4 minutes left? And it was still kind of a game, 10-point game? You didn't start sweating?
Not at all.
Okay.
I wasn't sweating in the slightest.
I had a couple beads of sweat coming down the side of my head. I was like, what if they did this? What if Mathurin scores 10 straight?
In the back of my head, I was like, there's no way, right?
Like the final sacrifice was Halliburton's Achilles, and then they win the NBA championship.
Yeah, no, I didn't really think so. That's the one thing that always stinks about Game 7s, and I put out that clip or whatever saying take the under because all these games stink. They always stink. They're never played into the hundreds. And yet another example of that, it was dudes were nervous, it was slow, it was a lot of half-court offense, and just sloppy basketball all around today. It wasn't a very fun game.
The Thunder came out tight. The first few minutes, Halliburton was hitting those threes, and it just seemed like the Pacers were playing carefree.
And that's why I think people are a little justified in worrying or being like, oh, how does this look without with Halliburton playing? Because, look, man, when you're watching that game right there, when Halliburton hits that third three, I think everybody watching that game goes, all right, here we go. Pacers are here. Pacers are the more confident team. And what does that look like come the fourth quarter when you have the clutchest player that we've seen in a decade in the playoffs at this point?
I would be more inclined to agree with that if we saw more than 7 minutes of Halliburton. If it was like 2.5, 3 quarters, and the Pacers were up 5 and they were controlling the pace of the game, then okay. But we saw 7 minutes. There's a really, really high chance that that was just a hot start and the Thunder still would have won.
I don't know about all that. I think the
don't think we
mindset
can go
is
this
so
far.
different when Halliburton's on that floor, because Halliburton
True.
would have been the calmest player and the most confident player on the floor in a Game 7 in the biggest moments in the fourth quarter. Because, look, I can't believe we're asking this question at this point, but let's say if it was a tie ball game, 1 minute left, you wanted Halliburton with the ball out of anybody on the court today.
Yeah, I agree with that. And those are all valid points. And, there's a real world that if Halliburton does stay in, that happens.
If the Pacers keep it within 10 points, you're still sitting there thinking the Pacers can win this game if Halliburton's playing.
Jefferson made a joke on the broadcast saying if Halliburton was playing right now and they're down 12 with 6 minutes left, that's right where they want him. And I'm kind of inclined to agree.
No, I think they would have been fine. And, yeah, the T.J. McConnell stretch got me excited. I was like, I like what I'm seeing.
But he had some gut-wrenching turnovers, too.
Those turnovers were honestly cost them the game, to be honest.
But the thing is, if he was the only one getting in the lane being aggressive, you had to do it.
Exactly.
Even Siakam was kind of taking a backseat sitting in the corner, which I don't understand. So,
Siakam and Nembhard sat quite a long time in that third quarter, too.
The rotations, perfect segue. The rotations I thought were insane. There was nobody that played 40 minutes in an NBA Game 7. NBA Finals Game 7. Siakam less than 40 minutes. SGA, J-Dub under 40 minutes. Chet doesn't even get to 30. If you look back at 2016, Karter, the 2016 Game 7 NBA Finals, the last one we had, LeBron had 47, Kyrie 43, JR 39, and then Draymond 47, Clay 42, Curry 39. These guys are out there playing 40, 45, 47 minutes because it's the last game of the year, everything on the line. I didn't understand it tonight. There's a lot of weird rotation stuff, especially from Indiana's side. Carlisle sitting Siakam that whole stretch in the third quarter when the Thunder went up by 22, 24 points, I think that's inexcusable. You have him out there. If he gets tired, so be it. At least you're still in the game.
I think it is inexcusable, but at the same time, Rick Carlisle has pressed every button perfectly in these playoffs.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, am I going to fault him that much?
I don't know. That's tough.
Yeah. Christian said Game 7 unders are undefeated. I can't believe I forgot to take it.
You were getting some hate in the comments on this one.
Yeah, the likes to comments ratio was surprisingly in my favor.
There was people commenting like, "Oh, this is a different era of basketball." It's still Game 7.
It's still Game 7, and also 2016 wasn't that the greatest team 2016 one of the greatest teams we've ever seen outside of the 17-18 Warriors.
Still didn't score 90 points in that game.
Jack in the chat, shout out Connor, biggest SGA fan I know.
It's not that I'm an SGA fan. I just feel like I have some sort of obligation because I had him for MVP this year. We've been going back and forth since November.
Or do you feel bad that you said you'd rather have LaMelo over SGA a couple years ago when we did a podcast?
I don't know what you're talking about. I've had those tapes deleted from the internet. To be fair, that's when the Thunder were a 24-win team. So,
Yeah, but they were also, that was fake tanking.
Yeah, no, valid, but, nobody knew SGA would be the MVP. But to be fair, it's not that I'm his biggest fan. I just know that it has become a trend to hate on him and the way he plays. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of foul baiting crap, and they get away with a lot, and I'm not going to deny that. But I think it's a little overblown. I think he had a very. We'll look back in history and say, "Wow, what an amazing season SGA had." Topped it off with the championship, and I think that's the right way to look at it. I don't think there's going to be any asterisks on it.
Are you going to look at it in the same way of Giannis 22 or 21 bucks, or Jokic 23 Nuggets?
Yes, why not? Amazing individual season, win an NBA championship. That's all there is to it. Why wouldn't I?
I guess that's true. I guess I can't argue that.
Look at the Nuggets run. They get an 8 seed in the finals of the Miami Heat.
I will say, and the other thing I had in my notes, I think Jack also tweeted this after I wrote my notes too. OKC Denver and the Pacers Thunder series were the literal exact same thing. Adam Silver said, let's copy and paste that homework and put it in the finals.
Yeah, they got lazy on the script.
Yeah, they were like they chat GPT'd that script and they were like, let's run that again. That was awesome.
I hate doing this because it wasn't even the conference finals, it was round 2, but we might be an Aaron Gordon hamstring away from Jokic winning another title. And I don't want to I don't want to say that because the Timberwolves, it's a different series.
No, Timberwolves aren't winning that series. I don't care.
Then we're probably an Aaron Gordon hamstring away from an NBA championship.
How fascinating would a Nuggets-Pacers finals have been?
Jokic would have had 40, 20, and 20 every game, but I think it still would have won like 7 games.
And if it was a game 7, there's no shot I'm taking that under.
No. No. Jokic would have had a field day on that Pacers defense. The Pacers' strength on defense was perimeter defense. It wasn't the interior. Miles Turner would have gotten his ass diced up. But that's a story for a summer podcast.
That is a story for a summer podcast. We still have a lot more to get to.
We'll talk about what else.
I had that thing I talked to you about before we started recording. When we talked about the Thunder, people are going to talk about having an asterisk on this game because of the Halliburton Achilles injury. No one's really – it's not going to matter in 10 years from now. Everyone's just going to remember the Thunder won the title. And then also people are going to say, people tomorrow might say, SGA, he kind of had an inefficient game. He was 8 for 27, didn't shoot the ball really efficiently. 2 of 12 from 3. No one's going to care about that in 10 years either. Everybody's going to look back on this Game 7 Thunder performance. SGA and Kobe did the exact same thing. Kobe in 2010 against the Celtics, 6 of 24, 23 points, 11 of 15 from the free throw line. SGA tonight in Game 7 versus the Pacers, 8 of 27, 29 points, 11 of 12 from the free throw line. All that matters is they won. It doesn't matter how many shots they missed. It just matters that they won. That's what everyone's going to remember.
I agree. 99.5% of people aren't going to go back and say, well, actually, SGA shot this percentage from the field in Game 7, and he was a little bit under.
Only people that hate SGA are going to do that.
Which, to be fair, that number is growing. So, maybe we look back in 5 years, and there's a lot of people that say that. But I think you're right. I think that's a good point. I mean, that Lakers Game 7 that you mentioned was a rock fight. It was ugly. I wasn't old enough to really understand basketball at that point, but I've gone back and watched a lot of it. It was ugly basketball.
I'll never forgive Aaron Gordon's hamstring for Jack Carpenter. I think a lot of people are feeling like that about a lot of people's ligaments in these playoffs.
Yeah, I think you're right. But back to my point I led the show with, that's just what it is. When you play 82 games in a regular season and you drag out the playoffs for 2 months and you play an NBA Finals over 17 days and these guys are going hard in games, and yes, there's more off days, but they're still practicing. They're still putting the wear and tear on their bodies. It's just what's going to happen. That's why so many NBA playoffs are decided by injuries. We say it every year. Who's going to get hurt? There's always 2 or 3 major injuries in the NBA playoffs. And just because this one happened at such an inopportune time, it sucks. It absolutely sucks. But unfortunately, this is par for the course of what we see. Now, there is an unusually high amount of Achilles injuries, which, I don't know if that's due to so many games being played. Now people are going to call for 65-game seasons, which I agree with, but this is just what it is. Stars get hurt in the playoffs. You've been playing basketball for 8 straight months.
1,000%. 1,000% agree. And people are going to do the look back on the run and,
You can do that for every single run. You can make the picture that's fraudulent NBA championship. This player got hurt in round 1. This player's been out for the whole year in round 2. This player missed 3 games in round 3. You can do it for almost every single NBA championship run.
The KD Warriors in, what was it, 7? Not the Rockets one. Not the Rockets Western Conference Finals. Was that 16? I'm messing up my years.
No, the Rockets almost beat him with Durant.
Yeah, was that 18? Or was that 19? I think it was 19.
Yeah, with Chris Paul.
Yeah, and then, but, the 17-18 Warriors, But then people are just going to say that's unfair.
Well, that doesn't apply. Yeah, that doesn't apply. It's just you look at that team. But for the majority.
Andrew said in the chat, nobody will say anything, especially if the Thunder do it again. Exactly. That's another great point.
Do you think the Thunder are going to do it again, though?
Right away? Like next season?
Either next season or in the next 5 years, with this iteration of the Thunder team, with SGA, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren as the top 3 players, are they going to win another title? They looked vulnerable.
Yeah, they looked vulnerable, but they also looked healthy. And
like I said, Chet's played 100 regular season games. They're ahead of their schedule. They're ahead of their timeline. I don't care what anybody says. They weren't supposed to be here this early.
There was, 1.5 games where I thought SGA ever looked tired, and that was it.
Yeah, they did a good job managing his minutes. And then when the Pacers went, picked him up full court, 94 feet, Game 4, Game 5, I think Daignault did a great job of adjusting his rotation, getting him early rest.
Yeah, and yeah, No, absolutely. Andrew in the chat said can't do it for the Cavs in 16. Or you could say the Draymond suspension, which he said. Some will say the Draymond suspension, but that's one game.
No, put an asterisk on that too. You know what? How about every NBA championship has some sort of asterisk? Draymond suspension, bubble, COVID, half the fans gone for the Bucks. Come on, we can do this for every year.
Bubble's an asterisk. I don't care what anybody says.
It's just different. I mean, what are you gonna do? That'll always be remembered as different.
Yeah, it just has to be different. You played with,
and
fake
of course
crowd
LeBron's
noise.
the one that won that. Of course LeBron is like, that's his championship. It's so funny.
Yeah, it's a won it with nobody in the crowd, fake crowd noise being pumped in an empty gym at a. I feel like it's been described by many of the NBA players as a luxury resort prison.
If Giannis wins the bubble championship instead of LeBron, like that's his only title, I don't think it's talked about nearly as much. There's no like Lay Mickey and all this. We're like, oh, Giannis got a ring.
No, I think it's how we think about the Raptors 19 title, where it's like that happened.
Yeah, we can acknowledge that and move on.
Yeah. Anyhow, I'll get to this question. We only waited until 36 minutes of the show to get this one. The only ethical finals were 2023.
You know, that seems a little biased. I can't put my finger on why.
But I will say, like, everyone will talk about the asterisks for that one was the seeds they played, and they didn't. Was it not a 50-win team? That whole bull crap. But the funniest part is the Celtics choking that. I mean, I think we forget about how bad of a choke that was by the Celtics. Hope Chase.
You know what sucks about the 2023 finals, though? Not to get into it, we knew that series was over before it started. We knew what was going to happen.
Yeah, we felt that way last season too. I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Did you feel that way this year? Maybe not as much, but I still kind of felt that way.
I felt that this year, but we were wrong. Even though, obviously the Thunder still won, but we were still wrong about that.
Yeah. What a year for the Pacers. I mean, the Pacers have nothing to hang their heads about. That was a absolutely insane year. Would you take, I mean, as a Hornets fan, I would take that any day of the week.
Connor, I would do unspeakable things for a second-round run. I don't want to – I've never seen this team win a playoff series. I've seen this team win 3 playoff games in our lifetime, Connor.
Did that inspire you, this Pacers run, to be like, you know, the Hornets could do something like that?
I'm sitting here watching Con Knipple and VJ Edgecombe tape going, yeah, next year's our year. LaMelo doesn't have to handle the ball as much, doesn't have to put up 30 shots a game. Yeah, I'm thinking that. If you're a fan of a team, of course you have to think that.
Only took 37 minutes to bring up the Hornets. Not bad.
Lakers would have had home court all playoffs, so they technically lost an advantage.
I like that. I like that take, Andrew. I like that. Nobody talks about that. And to be fair, they were dominating the league before COVID hit. They were the best team in the league. It was like them and the Clippers.
It's just different.
It is different. I won't lie.
It's different. Anyhow, we got to get to this question though. Is OKC an all-time team? Is this title team this year an all-time team? All the metrics would back you up if you say yes. The record will tell you yes. But do you feel in your heart of hearts that this OKC 2025 NBA title team is an all-time NBA team?
I'm going to say no, and it's the point you just hit on. The numbers will tell you yes. The metrics will tell you yes. You look at the season as a whole, and they've had one of the greatest seasons in NBA history for a champion. They had the MVP. So on paper, they should be. In my heart of hearts, just gut feeling, if you ask me in 10 years, hey, what are the best teams of your 20s? I don't necessarily know if the Thunder will be the first name off my tongue. Does that make sense?
Who would it be then? Out of the champions in the 20 out of the champions in the 2020s? It's probably the Celtics?
Maybe like the 2010s on would have been a better way to phrase that. We're only 5 years in to the 2020s.
2010s on, it's the Warriors. The Warriors could arguably be the greatest team in NBA history.
Yeah, and that's like, I don't think the Thunder are in the same weight class as that. At least not yet.
No.
Just from this one run, I don't think I feel like they're an all-time team. Now, if they go on to win 3 more titles in the next 8 years, then I'll probably feel differently. But as of right now, I can't say that. And that's just maybe because of how vulnerable they looked in this playoff run. They didn't come in and go like 16-3 in the playoffs. Like they really had to earn it. 2 Game 7s, taking Indiana to Game 7 in the finals. I think on paper they are, but just in my heart, if somebody asked me in a lunchroom table, I don't think I'm saying that.
And also in those 2 Game 7s, they did have big-time injuries go their way. And I'm not discrediting the Thunder. They're the champs. I don't want to take anything away from them. But as an all-time team in those Game 7s, like That's not nothing. And they did look really vulnerable. I don't feel like they're an all-time team at all, to be honest. I
think they're kind of teetering on the ledge.
Going back to Andrew's point, though, if they win another, then that solidifies it, and everything's, then they get looked back on. But how many one-time title teams do you look back on and go, that was an all-time team, that was an all-time NBA winner?
I mean, recency bias, the one I think of is the Cavs, but even then, because you always think, like, what if Kevin Durant didn't go to the Warriors, the Cavs probably win another one. That's what comes to mind, but that's not even an all-time team. That's just an all-time moment.
But yes and no. It also is kind of an all-time team because that Cavs team was going to the finals every single year.
That's true. So, yeah, I guess the Cavs would be the answer then.
Anybody else? Because the Bucks know. The Nuggets know.
The Celtics, I guess. The Celtics kind of felt inevitable, won the finals in 5 games. Maybe that.
That would probably be the other good example, but yeah. Christian in the chat said, I hope after seeing the Bucks win it all, now I know we'll never win it. I think that's meant for the Hornets. And then the NBA too rigged for us to do anything. If that's not the truth, Connor.
I truly feel like there's going to be 2 different teams in the finals next year. I think we're going to be in an era of, we haven't had a repeat champion in years.
They got the local weather on. I left the ABC running right now. I'm in somewhere in Illinois, who knows where. It's not a great place, I'll tell you that. And there's just like a heat wave's coming in 105 tomorrow.
Whew.
Kill me now. Andrew in the chat said, I might remember the Pacers run this year more than the Thunder run, TBH. That is an excellent take.
It felt like a March Madness run. You touched on it earlier, Carter. You truly don't see a ton of NBA underdogs make this type of run. And even when you do, the most recent one's the Miami Heat. And we still talk about that. Even though they lost in the finals, to the Denver Nuggets and it wasn't even close, we still bring up that Heat run.
And I hate bringing this up. Bringing this up. I want to throw up, but.
Oh, say it. Yep, say it. I know.
Nobody remembers Kansas won the 22 national title. Everybody remembers Carolina beat Duke, and Carolina made the title game that year, and remembers that crazy run the Tar Heels went on. That's the honest truth, and that might be what happens with this Pacers Thunder. People might just remember the Pacers making that insane run, Halliburton's crazy game winners, and that might be what's more remembered if the Thunder don't come back and win it and aren't as relevant again. Now, I think the Thunder are going to be in the mix for the next decade, probably.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I think this year's Pacers team, as memorable as they are, it's going to be a team in 5 years we look back on, and there's going to be like some edits and be like, man, remember this magical run? TJ McConnell's retired, Kobe Toppin, Matherin's gone, Halliburton is, what he is, probably a mid-tier top 25 player maybe still in 5 years. Like, it's just going to be one of those teams, like, remember when they had this crazy run and they haven't been back since?
Yeah, it's going to be Tavon Austin highlights, going back and watching this Halliburton run in the playoffs.
Pacers fans are going to be showing this to their grandkids in 20 years and be like, no, we made the NBA Finals, look.
And Halliburton being the first option on a finals team. Like, really think about that.
How do you think that's going to look in 5 years? Like, where do you think Halliburton's going to be, especially after this Achilles injury?
I don't know. And I honestly, can I cop out and say I don't want to answer because I feel like Pacers fans are going through hell enough right now.
I do feel for him. 2-year window shot just like that.
I mean, it's just dancing on their grave at that point because, like you said, next season's a watch for the Pacers.
Yeah, I agree.
Do we move on?
Yeah,
enough on the finals.
Well,
no.
On everything. What was Chase's tweet?
Oh yeah, let's get to that.
Please.
That should have been an easy segue. Totally forgot about it. All right, let me pull this up.
I mean,
Chase Rogers
on a show where Dylan Wilkerson's a frequent guest. This might be one of the worst takes I've ever seen, and that's
maybe we need Chase to just become our just like NBA ridiculous takes guy. Even though the problem is Dylan believes this crap, man.
Yeah, no, it's not a bit. That's why I tell people when they ask.
Everyone watching thinks Dylan's a bit, and I think Dylan. My theory is about Dylan is he is running bits in a circle with himself where he thinks he's running the bit, but in reality he's actually not running the bit.
Yeah, like the bit comes from what he actually believes.
Yes. but he doesn't realize that because he thinks he's doing a bit. Anyhow,
like
let me share the Chase tweet if you're watching on YouTube right now. So if you're listening on Apple or Spotify right now, hit the subscribe button, 5-star review and everything. Chase's tweet, he tweeted this out when the finals ended. We had to get this, talk about this as well. He said, this OKC team, I'm messing up right now. This OKC team loses to every other 2000s champion in 6 games or less. I'm so serious. And,
Carter, I think this is an all-time bad take. Genuinely. I think this is
all-time.
I just, oh, man. If you look back at the, I don't want to get into the eras talk or whatever, but you're telling me some of those mid-2000s champions would have beat OKC in 6 games. You're telling me the Pistons, they had a great defense, or I don't know. I can't do it, Carter. He's acting like this OKC team is not a great team.
Would they have beaten the Celtics last year?
Now that I don't
just
think
say
so.
yes. Just say yes. Just say yes.
Yeah, easily. Yeah, easily. Yeah, especially all these Boston fans out there. Probably would have been a sweep, maybe 5.
Oh, yeah, dude, imagine the half-court offenses. And I'm so happy because we all thought it was going to be a Thunder-Celtics finals this year. I am so happy we didn't get to see that crap. That would have been the most gross offense and most gross basketball we would have seen between those two teams. I would have been sitting here rooting for the Thunder, I think. I'd have been sitting here, man, I guess the Thunder do run a decent offense.
Wait, no, he had a retweet too that
I'll go to the retweet here in a second, but once again, this OKC team loses to every other 2000s champion in 6 games or less. I'm so serious. From @Chase_Rogers0 on Twitter.
Awful.
So you go through it and you go.
The Lakers, sure. The early 2000s Lakers, sure.
Yeah, early 2000s Lakers, Warriors, yeah. I don't know. I think they could have taken that Bucks team to a deep.
I agree.
You're telling me the 2019 Raptors?
I think they could have. Yeah,
I think the Thunder beat the 2019 Raptors, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy. 2011 Mavs, as much fun as they were.
The 2011 Mavs might be the prime example, and you're like, well, they beat Wade, LeBron, and all these guys.
06 Heat. We can go down the list. Some of those Celtics Lakers years from 2010.
Now, the 06 Heat versus the 25 Thunder, I would have paid very good money to see Chet versus Shaq.
He wouldn't have lasted a game. Chet would have been folded in half like a lawn chair in the 3rd row by the end of the first half.
I would have paid good money to see Shaq versus Chet. Imagine prime early 2000s Lakers Shaq versus Chet right now.
You would have to legitimately play somebody like Kenrich Williams or something just to foul Shaq every time.
I'll share the other Chase tweet in a second. Off the top of your head, this is rough coming from a bigger guy myself, but what's the all skinny team in the NBA?
As of right now, active?
Yeah, Chet's got to be first ballot.
Chet's there, Durant.
Brandon Ingram
for sure. Brandon Ingram.
We'll have to get stats department on the rest. If you're in the chat right now, type in the all skinny.
One of the Thompson twins. Amen Thompson's pretty thin. Nah, maybe not. No, he's pretty built.
No,
there's somebody I'm thinking of that. Bol.
Bol's on there, I think.
Bol's on there.
Is he good enough to be on there?
Bench guy, reserve.
All right. We'll get Evan Mobley.
No, he's bulked up a little bit. Come on.
A little?
He's bulked up a little bit. Come on.
Jared Allen's not skinny, but he is gentle.
He's lanky.
He's just a gentle guy.
Nick Claxton,
I think, makes the cut.
Nick Claxton's up there. This is kind of
Especially like rookie Nick Claxton. Oh my gosh.
Ingram's 1A though. Ingram and Chet. Wemby, I guess.
Ingram and Chet 1A. Okay, let's go to the other tweet. My gosh. He retweeted some Celtics things. Sour Celtics fans tonight.
Yeah,
right now.
sour Celtics fan after winning a title. Give me a break. This one. Yeah, this one.
Does this Thunder ring have the biggest asterisk in NBA history?
From Celtics Unite fan page, parody account.
No.
Absolutely not. We already went over the 2019 Raptors. That is hands down the biggest asterisk of this. Is outside the bubble.
I think it's 19 Raptors and the 2020 Lakers. Those are the asterisks, and
because with the Raptors, Durant and Clay, if just one of them plays a healthy series, they probably lose in 5 games.
Now let me ask you this though: do you count obviously we weren't alive to see these games? do you think about the 90s Rockets teams not having to play Jordan? Jordan's out of the league for a couple of years.
That's stretching a little bit. That's
Okay.
stretching a
I
little
think
bit.
that's
I mean, I know what you're saying, but he wasn't in the league. It wasn't like he got hurt in the finals.
I think this is ridiculous. The 19 Raptors. I think we just forgot that was a team.
That's what I'm saying. Nobody brings it up, and you're probably right. In 5 years, nobody will say anything about this. But the fact that I see stuff like this on my timeline from an analyst like Chase that we have on this show, come on, Chase, don't give the Karterkast a bad rap. That's a horrible take. I've had some bad takes. That's bad.
Well, let's go back to the all skinny team. I think this is more fun than talking about salty Celtics fans. Jack said Bol. Kinley in the chat said Mikal Bridges. I think he has to be on there. Yeah, that's a great shout out. So Bol benched. You're out of here. Do we have a guard?
That's what I'm trying to think of as a guard.
Because all the guards are kind of like they're smaller but a little more stocky. They're not.
I mean, LaMelo's not very big.
LaMelo's kind of skinny.
LaMelo's pretty skinny. He might have to be on the team,
especially when you see him in person.
Yeah, I know.
But when you see all these NBA players in person, you're like, oh my gosh, they're way thinner than they look on TV. Camera does add 20 pounds. I'm telling everyone at home right now. This camera might add 40
This camera
pounds.
adds a little bit. Yeah, come
on. I'll scream. Oh, hold up. Jack had a great one. Luka Doncic before the NBA. Andrew said, I'll scream 15 Warriors biggest asterisk ever till I die.
I'm not mad about that one, Carter. I'm not mad about that one. People forget. Timofey Mozgov was the second best player on that Cavs team.
And Rodney Hood.
No, Rodney Hood was not there in 2015. That was 18.
Was he not there in 15 or was that 18?
It was 18. Rodney Hood was
18.
there. Mozgov was 2015.
Yeah, because he was on the Jazz in 15.
Dellavedova was out there playing 40 minutes a game. Mozgov was playing 35 minutes a game.
Rodney Hood was nice in that 18 finals, though.
He wasn't bad.
Shout out Rodney Hood. Follows me on Twitter for some reason.
Shout out Rodney Hood.
Hopefully he's watching right now. He's locked in. He's like, these guys. All right. You want to get to the KD trade?
Yeah, we can. I guess that's enough on the game. Overall, what do you think? Game 7, give it a rating out of 10. The Halliburton injury obviously sucked, but
series as a whole, I mean, it's a 9.1 out of 10. Like, awesome series. Doesn't get much better. We had the buzzer beater. We had all-time moments in the series. The Game 7 was literally a 1 point, I guess a 2.1 out of 10 because at least we got one fun half of basketball.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. And what sucks is this Game 7 kind of spoils what was otherwise a great series, and that's what people are going to remember. It leaves a bad taste in your mouth as a fan for Game 7 to end like this with an injury like that. But the series as a whole, you're right. I thought it was great basketball up until the end of Game 7.
Yeah.
All right.
Kevin Durant gets traded today. Finally happened. We don't have to sit here and wait about it anymore. It finally freaking happened, Connor. Kevin Durant gets traded for Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, and the number 10 pick in 5 second-round picks. I mean, those are just like freaking Krispy Kreme buy one, get one free coupons they're just giving out. They don't give an F about these second-round picks. To the Phoenix Suns for exchange for Kevin Durant. I like the trade. I don't think it's a bad trade for either team, to be honest. At what point it is in this spot where the Suns didn't really have much leverage, and the Rockets, you didn't really give up anybody you didn't want to give up.
It's kind of crazy. It's only been 12 hours since the news dropped, and I've actually seen people on both sides, both extremes, saying, oh, the Rockets fleeced the Suns, or oh my gosh, the Suns got that much for a 38-year-old, 37-year-old Kevin Durant. I kind of see it the way you do. I don't know if I want to classify it as like a win-win, but if you're the Rockets, you're right. You don't have to give up Jabari Smith. You don't have to give up Tari Eason. You don't have to give up Amen Thompson. You keep Whitmore. You keep Reed Shepherd. I thought at least one of Jabari Smith or Eason would be gone in this deal. So to keep both of them and only give up Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, and the 10th pick, which we just saw Reed Shepherd with the 10th pick being Houston's rotation this year, probably not. So, you know, I've seen a lot of comments saying, oh, Houston shortened their window and ruined their future for 2 years of Durant. I actually disagree. I think this is the swing they had to take. And in this era of the NBA where anybody has a chance, there's not a powerhouse team right now, a lot of injuries, especially in the East, the Houston Rockets just raised their ceiling. I think it was a good move for them because, let's be honest, where's Jalen Green taking you? He's a nice young piece, but he's had years to develop. He's had years to cement himself as a number one option. Has he done that? No. What's the number one thing the Rockets needed, especially we saw it in the playoffs against the Warriors? Somebody to get the ball to, tie game, 3-4 minutes left, get us a bucket. Where's the go-to scorer? Who can you clear off the side for and say, get me a bucket? It wasn't Jalen Green. Out of
No, it was
7-game
not.
series, Jalen Green shows up 2 or 3 times. He might have a 30-point game, and then he has 3 games in a row where he's like 1 for 17 or something crazy like that. Like, Jalen Green is not taking this team anywhere. So I think it was the right move for the Rockets, and I cannot believe people are saying, oh, they gave up too much for Kevin Durant. Give me a break. If you get 3 years of Kevin Durant and he plays 55 games in a regular season and you still get a top 4 seed and he's healthy for the playoffs, which is what's going to happen, you make that move 10 times out of 10. 10 times out of 10. They didn't give up any other picks besides the number 10 pick.
Let's ask this question too. Kevin Durant plays in these playoffs for the Rockets instead of Jalen Green. We might be talking about a Rockets Thunder Western Conference Finals potentially.
I completely agree. What was the one thing the Rockets were missing is a go-to scorer at the end of these games. If Durant is healthy and doesn't have to play a ton of regular season games, that's what he provides you. That's what he provides you. I think it's a fine. What do you think? I think it's fine.
I think it's fine for both sides. The Suns had no leverage here. The Suns, that is the key part here, is I'm actually kind of surprised they got this much in return, to be honest. I know they gave up a crap ton to get him, but at the same time, it's not like you didn't get anything in return back. And also, there is a lot of pressure on this front office now for this number 10 pick to go out and hit a grand slam. You can't hit a home run. You got to hit a grand slam at the number 10 pick. Because if you're Phoenix right now in this upcoming NBA draft, you look at your future and you go, we have no picks coming in. We got nobody. You gotta hit big on this guy at number 10. There is so much pressure. And if you're Phoenix, I don't think you can take a safe pick whatsoever. You got to swing for the fences here. You got to get the highest boom or bust guy, in my opinion. If you're Phoenix, you have to risk it at this point because this is your last chance.
And I cannot believe I've seen people throw the phrase like, "Oh, the Rockets ruined their future." It's the 10th pick. We're not talking about Cooper Flagg here. We're not talking about Dylan Harper.
And they also have 1,000 other picks too.
And the Rockets have the number 3 pick in last year's draft, which wasn't as good of a draft, Reed Shepherd, who didn't make the rotation this year. And like, okay, so let's say the Rockets don't make this move and they keep Jalen Green and the number 10 pick. What's that really gonna do for them in the future? Where's that really gonna take them? What's the ceiling of this Rockets team if you keep Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks in the 10th pick? It's a hell of a lot lower than it is with Kevin Durant.
And clearly we saw in the playoffs eventually that, look, man, Jalen Green just gets in the way of Amen Thompson. You know who won't get in the way of that is Kevin Durant because he's going to space the floor for Amen Thompson to be able to penetrate more and be able to kick out to Kevin Durant and kick out to other guys. And maybe we'll see a little bit more Reed Shepherd this year because clearly Houston didn't want to give him up in the trade. Even though he didn't get to play a lot this year, I think that changes even going into next season. I think this is a huge win for the Rockets. I think this is a trade you had to make. And guess what? It sucks if you're a Rockets fan because you go, man, we're getting competitive at the worst times in Western Conference history because you get super, super competitive when the Warriors have Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, when everybody else in the Western Conference says, nah, I'm good. I don't even want to compete with that. We'll punt. And then right now they're doing it when there are 14 good teams in the West at this point.
Yeah, but the thing is, what did we hear all of last season? The Rockets have too many guys, too many rotational guys. They have 12 guys that can play. So to turn 3 potential rotation pieces into Durant like this, I think it's the right move. And I get what you're saying. The West is uber competitive. You know, probably 8 of the top 10 teams next year are probably going to be in the West or something ridiculous with all these Eastern Conference injuries. But they had the number 2 seed this year without Kevin Durant. So, you know, I think they'll be okay. Yeah. And from a Suns standpoint, I didn't talk about the Suns much. I think you're right. I think getting this haul back for Durant, it's a little underwhelming, but it's probably the best they were going to get. The real thing is taking the swing on Durant and turning Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Jay Crowder, and 4 unprotected picks into Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks in the 10th pick. That's the real mishap. And the thing is, people want to shit on Matt Ishbia for it. I would have done the same thing. You have a chance to get Kevin Durant. The West was pretty open at the time. You do that too. It didn't work out. You took a swing. You missed. So what? You had to try to maximize Devin Booker's window. It didn't work. Now you have to rebuild.
Yeah, I'm not as mad about it as well. It's Kevin Durant. It's Kevin.
I'm not mad.
Durant.
He was like 34 at the time. I'm not mad at all.
And he almost took the Brooklyn Nets to the finals. If his toe wasn't on the line, we might have been talking about Kevin Durant as an NBA champion, bringing one home for the Brooklyn Nets for crying out loud. So
and Durant people are talking about Durant like he's got a half a season left and he's done. Sure, he's been injury prone. He averaged 26, 27 last year. Let's stop acting like this guy's washed up. He'll be 37 in September or something like that. I get it. He probably has 2 years left. But you know what doesn't go away? Is a catch and shoot jumper from a 7-footer who shoots above his forehead. He's going to be able to be on the court.
And not just that, too. I also think with a lot of these veteran dudes, you just lose motivation when you're on these teams going nowhere. When you've been to the top of the top, you've played there, you know you're one of the best players ever. What's the motivation to go up and get out every day and get in the gym every day? It's guaranteed money. You're getting it no matter what. I just don't think there's that same motivation and that same excitement going in day to day trying to win when you're in Phoenix. You'll probably see a different version of Kevin Durant. We see this with James Harden every time he moves to another team. That first year with a new team, all of a sudden James Harden's bought in and everything's great. We'll probably see the same thing with Kevin Durant going into the season. I like the Rockets a lot. I also don't like Jalen Green a lot, so especially for the Rockets, this is a huge win for the Rockets. The Suns, I think they maximize what they got for KD, what they could have gotten, to be honest. Because I would have liked to see it. I would have liked to have seen KD go to Minnesota, but clearly he didn't want to go to Minnesota, and clearly the Timberwolves didn't have enough to send back for KD.
I'll be curious to see how Durant interacts with this roster and Ime Udoka as the head coach, because usually it's, the last few times Durant switched teams has always been one or two other stars there. In Houston, there's not really another superstar, but there's a lot of great young talent around him. So, the Phoenix thing didn't work because there was a, quote, big three, and then everybody else around the fringes was subpar. Now there's actual depth, young guys, athleticism. I think he might fit in pretty nicely.
I think it's going to be just fine. And guess what? You have one of the best coaches in the league, too.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun to watch. I really do. And I don't think he'll have to do too much.
Kinley in the chat said, who is more valuable to the Rockets next season, Thompson or Durant?
Regular season, Thompson by a mile. I think Durant probably plays 50, 55 regular season games. But playoffs time, Durant is going to be the guy with the ball in his hands, last 5 minutes of a game, tie a game. So playoffs, Durant, but regular season is Amen Thompson, because he's going to have to 100%. Take that leap as a scorer, as a playmaker, as a rebounder for them to get that top 4 seed, because Durant's not going to play 82 games.
100% agree with you, because on top of that, too, I worry a little bit with this Rockets team that if the half-court offense doesn't improve, does Kevin Durant become, how the Magic run their offense with Paolo Banchero, where he's the, oh, crap, give it to this guy at the end of the shot clock kind of guy? I think that happens with Durant quite a bit, so maybe his numbers don't look super efficient at times, but Durant's going to be that go-to guy at the end of a shot clock, at the end of games in the playoffs, where you need him to hit a bucket when it's a tight half-court game, and that's just going to push the Rockets' ceiling way higher. So I 100% agree with you.
I think the spacing is going to be – I'm interested to see what the spacing is going to be, because you're going to have Amen Thompson, who isn't a great shooter, Şengün, who's not a great shooter. You've got guys on the court that can't shoot. Tari Eason's not a great shooter. I'll be curious.
That's why I think Reed Sheppard has to play more.
Reed Sheppard and Cam Whitmore, I think, is going to probably play 25-plus minutes a game next year. I think keeping him and kind of getting rid of Dillon Brooks and Jalen Green, who are above him on the depth chart, I think you'll see a lot of Cam Whitmore next year.
Jack said KD will go down as the most underrated player in NBA history.
What do you think? That's a tough one.
Depends how underrated, because I feel like Hakeem Olajuwon has this title right now, right?
You would think so, yeah, that 95 title, but...
Or Tim Duncan is probably going to have it in like 5 years.
Tim Duncan's up there for sure. I mean, as far as just pure skill goes, pure basketball skill, Kevin Durant is near the top of the list, ever. Just as far as somebody to pick up a basketball.
I think he's the best scorer I've ever seen.
I think I have to agree. To have a 7-footer with that type of handle, I mean... I don't know.
And that jumper?
I think he's going to catch a lot of shit moving forward. Like, he joined the Warriors and, took the easy way out. And then he was, quote unquote, a journeyman for the last few years of his career.
But the other thing is, like, those Brooklyn teams, like, he was kind of carrying those Brooklyn teams when guys were out. And he was the constant. Yeah, he was. I'm okay with Kevin Durant's career and everything. And also, it's kind of this weird thing where it's like, okay, Kevin Durant, what if he went the rest of his career and didn't win a ring? Would he be talked about in a little bit better light than Carmelo? Or would, the rings change the discussion for him, no matter how you could call it?
You're saying if he never won a ring?
If he never won a ring, people would talk about him the same way, in a little bit better way they talk about Carmelo Anthony, in my opinion.
I agree. But we've seen him, yes, he joined the Warriors and it was a super team, but he did dominate those finals.
Let's Let's go. We haven't discussed the Desmond Bain trade yet, have we?
No, we can do that a little bit.
All right. Let me get the Desmond Bain trade pulled up. Do you have anything else from the finals tonight you wanted to touch on?
Anything else from the finals?
I have a live feed right now. No, it's not live feed. I was going to say it looked like they were talking about the Rockets trade on ESPN, but that was a previous clip from before. I was about to say that's crazy.
Don't be shy. I'm telling you, don't. I want to. I'm not going to do it because I actually value my time. But if I was bored, I would go time like first take or get up and how many minutes they talk about Durant versus the Game 7 of the finals.
Man, that sucks. You have a job.
Yeah, I know. It's stupid.
Because we need that info. I can't even find the full details of the trade, but Desmond Bain gets traded. Everyone's seen it by now if you're listening. You know the Desmond Bain trade. A bunch of picks. Contavious Caldwell-Pope. Cole Anthony, Carolina Tar Heel, I guess, whatever.
Was it 4 unprotected picks? Is that what it was?
And then a couple swaps were in there as well.
I don't have it right in front of me, but the picks they gave up were not as valuable as I first thought they were. Is what I remember.
Yeah, I mean, it's not crazy. It's not crazy, but at the same time, like I'm okay with I'm okay with it because it's my thing with the Desmond Bain train in Orlando is it's just the perfect fit for exactly what they need because they didn't want to give up on Jalen Suggs as being a point guard. They aren't going to move on from Franz or Paolo, and they needed 3-point shooting. It's kind of exactly what they needed.
Yeah, and look, obviously they did this before the Halliburton injury, but that's another Eastern Conference team that won't be in contention next year. So if you're the Magic, the door's wide open to make a Pacers-like run in the Eastern Conference. And from on paper, Desmond Bain is what they need. He's not a great ball handler. He's not a point guard, but he's a scoring guard, which is what they needed. So you look at their top 4 guys. It's him, it's Jalen Suggs, it's Franz, and it's Paolo. If they can get a legitimate center, some sort of center, I don't know if it's Wendell Carter. I don't know if Jonathan Isaac's going to slot in there. I don't know what they're going to do. That's a pretty good lineup. And you look at what they gave up. KCP was a non-factor for them this year. Cole Anthony, I think he's a great heat check scorer, but he was kind of falling out of the rotation in favor of Anthony Black, even Jet Howard at points last year, Tristan Da Silva getting some minutes. He wasn't really in the rotation to close the year. And yes, on paper, 4 unprotected first-round picks is a shit ton to give up for Desmond Bain. For Desmond Bain. You start comparing that to like Rudy Gobert trades or Luka trade even, and you're like, wait, what the hell's going on here? Looking at the picks, they're not crazy valuable picks other than the first one, but it's still a lot to give up. However, if you're the Magic, if not now, then when would be my thing. If not now, then when.
Exactly. And what's the other trade that they were going to make that makes sense around this team plus puts them as a contender in the Eastern Conference? Because, look, to be honest, however you feel about this trade, the Magic have to be talked about as a series finals contender in the conference with potentially the Pacers going down and the Celtics potentially going down. And now it being open between its Cavs, Knicks, Magic, Pistons.
Yeah.
Maybe Bucks. Sixers?
Yeah. Which is crazy.
Like that's what you're talking. The Hornets?
That's
what you're talking
about. Not that far.
That's what you're talking about with the Eastern Conference. So if you're the Magic, you go, look, we have a chance at this. We just saw what Indiana did. I think this goes back to what I talked about a couple weeks ago saying, look, it's a copycat league. People are going to look at that Pacers trend and go, you know what? We can do that too. We can do that too. The difference is the Pacers had a super unselfish guy running the show. And I think Paolo's unselfish. I think he's forced to take a lot of shots and everything. But they also had Rick Carlisle. And I think that's a little undervalued and not talked about enough because Rick Carlisle has clearly shown is he in that Spoelstra camp now? Even I know he didn't win these finals, but he did win one of the most improbable ones with the Dallas Mavericks in 2011, and he almost won the most improbable title, took them to a Game 7 in this year's finals. He's constantly relevant with his teams. He's always in the mix, has never really had great teams. Rick Carlisle might be in that conversation with the Steve Kerrs and Eric Spoelstras.
I don't think that's crazy. I think, on a team like this, especially now that we saw this Pacers run, you have to account for a few more wins with Rick Carlisle. You have to account for a lot of times with certain teams in the playoffs, we're like, oh, if they can hit their ceiling, if they can get this or that. I think it's kind of come to my attention that Rick Carlisle gets the most out of his players no matter what. He helps them hit their peak. Like these role players for Indiana all peaking at the same time wasn't a coincidence. I think that's majority due to Rick Carlisle. And, with the Pacers next year, it sucks with Halliburton out, but I don't see why they couldn't do it again as far as role players playing like that. It's a lot of Carlisle. I think you're right. And a lot of this run has to be credited to him, not just the players.
Yeah. Jack said, we're not going to talk about Dario Saric opting into his contract. Nuggets are so back.
How many minutes did he play from February on? Like 10?
What was his opt-in number? It was like 2.2.
Whatever it is too much.
2.2 too much.
I don't know why they didn't give him some run. I'd rather see him out there than Zignagy sometimes. I don't know.
I was dying. I saw Jeff T clip the other week, and he was like, "Yeah, I was pissed because Jason Tatum was playing, and then he finally went down, so I was able to get some tick." I was like, "How have I not been calling it tick this whole time?"
Some tick. Give Dario Saric some tick, man.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how they haven't printed the T-shirts. They probably have, but that's podcast funny. Is hilarious.
Desmond Bane.
But yeah, Desmond Bane trade. The Magic are totally relevant. They're definitely a contender to make the finals next year. Do you take them serious as a team to win the finals?
No, I don't. I don't see that happening unless takes a major leap. I don't see it.
So who are the teams you are serious about that can win the finals? I'll rattle
either
some
conference.
Off. Either conference. The Thunder.
Yeah.
The Cavs.
Yeah, just because the East is wide open. Yeah.
The Celtics, including Tatum's injury.
No, nope.
The Pacers.
There's going to be some moves from the Celtics this offseason. Did you say Pacers?
Yep.
No, absolutely not.
Knicks.
Yes by default. And I don't feel great about it.
So you look at and then the Rockets.
Yep.
Lakers.
Sure. Sure. No, got to.
The Warriors.
No, that's over.
That's over?
Nuggets, yes.
Nuggets, yes. Clippers.
Clippers, no. Wolves, yes.
Wolves, I'm sneaky no.
Okay.
The Mavericks.
No, let's stop that.
The Mavericks.
No, not next year.
The Dallas Mavericks.
Not next year. Maybe the year after that.
How fast do you buy in on the Mavericks? I feel like you're gonna. I feel like December you're gonna text me and go, "Oh my gosh."
Maybe so. And Kyrie comes back. I don't know.
You're gonna be like, "Oh, Kyrie's back in a month." The Mavs are currently second in the West right now. Cooper Flag is dominating. He is better than advertised.
I might text you that.
Put that out there.
I might text you that. But okay, so in the East, it's the Cavs, the Knicks, and
the Magic, Pistons.
Yeah, I don't even want to say the Bucks, even with Giannis.
The Sixers. The Hawks.
Maybe the Sixers. Yeah, maybe the Sixers. The Magic. Look, I'm going to say no for the Magic, but the swing they took on Desmond Bane, he shot 39% from three last year. It's what they needed. Floor spacer, scoring guard. Do you know how much he did with John Morant out of the lineup? Desmond Bane carried that Grizzlies offense a lot of nights this season and last season.
Also, look at it. Like, who else were the Magic getting? Okay, bring Kevin Durant in. That doesn't fit what they want to do at all. They already have two ball-dominant dudes, and yeah, Kevin Durant can shoot the ball, but they need three-point shooters. They need guys who are truly spacing the floor and not taking up possessions away from Paolo and Franz.
That's the name that we kept hearing
the
last 2 years, Anthony Simons. I would rather have Desmond Bane for one more pick than Anthony Simons. I would.
100%, without question. And then, who else is on the mark? James Harden? Is that who you're looking at that point?
Malik Monk.
Yeah, we did hear that, didn't we?
Malik Monk, Malik Monk is on the market. DeRozan, but that's not good. These guys aren't moving the needle. If you're the Magic and you want to make a big trade, you make the biggest splash you can, and that's Desmond Bane. So yes, on paper the price tag looks a little absurd, but if you really dig into it, I think it's worth it. Because four first round picks, what's that going to do? I don't know.
Quickly, what do the Grizzlies do? What do the Grizzlies do? Is Jaren Jackson Jr. on the Grizzlies next season?
Yeah, I think he is.
Really?
I don't think this is a signal for a full-blown rebuild. I really don't.
I don't like the half rebuild, though. Do you?
I don't either, but I think that's what they're going to do. I don't think they're going to rebuild it with Ja his mid-20s and Jaren Jackson coming off a great season. I don't think they tear everything down.
Yeah.
Maybe they just decided they hit their ceiling with this group, and there's going to be a slight reset, and there's going to be one more move. I don't know. I'd be shocked if they traded him.
What's the one NBA draft trade you want to see on Thursday?
I want to see the Sixers trade the number 3 pick. I don't know for what.
I do too.
But I want to see them trade it.
I want to see that too. I want full chaos on Thursday night. Now, what would you say about the Hornets potentially trading out?
I think that's fine. I think if you can get Edgecombe at 4, that's what I would want personally. And if he gets gone, if he gets drafted number 3, as much as I like Con Knippel as a prospect, I don't think Con Knippel should be our 4th pick.
I think Con Knippel should be the 4th pick. And then you're going to say, oh, you're biased.
No, I'm not. I think that's fair. I just don't feel that way. If we get Con Knippel at 7, I'm thrilled. At 4, ugh.
I think I want Con Knippel at 4. And I think this is the underrated part about some of these guys in the draft and what we've actually watched with the Thunder and the Pacers in these playoffs is dudes who can come in and fit in a team and play any role and do all these types of different things on the floor for your team and aren't going to be headaches off the court whatsoever. The Hornets are in desperate need of that more than anybody. Nobody brings that more than probably Con Knippel or VJ Edgecombe. And so either one of those.
They need a connector. You're right.
I think that's a huge win. And also, the Hornets do need shooting, too. So I think Con Knippel fits perfectly into what the Hornets want to do if they believe LaMelo's the guy going forward. If they don't believe LaMelo's the guy going forward, I think anything's on the table.
I think I'd be happy with Edgecombe or Con Knippel.
Trey Johnson, I'd be a little like...
I'm not a big fan.
Does he... It's
For the
more
Hornets.
so the fit. Yeah.
Right.
I like Trey Johnson. I think he'll be awesome on Utah or New Orleans, wherever he ends up going. But, yeah, the Ace Bailey stuff is so strange with him canceling all these workouts. And
he does not need to be in Charlotte. For his own personal career and for the future of the team, Ace Bailey, get the hell away from Charlotte.
I think Ace Bailey going to Charlotte could be the biggest disaster in this draft if it happened. And not because I'm super out on Ace Bailey or anything. It's more so the culture around the Charlotte Hornets and what they need and how they are bringing in Ace Bailey and what he needs and how he plays and what his development is going to look like is just the most imperfect marriage for an NBA draft pick of all time. It would be a bona fide disaster if Ace Bailey ends up going to the Charlotte Hornets.
You want to talk about a de facto AAU team? Put that team on like the Peach Jam circuit, EYBL, LaMelo, Brandon Miller, Ace Bailey.
Gremlin University.
It's just, a match made in hell. Ace Bailey, for your future career, for my sanity as a Hornets fan, please don't come to Charlotte.
Hello, the Brooklyn Nets. I can't wait for the draft.
I don't think he falls past Washington.
You don't think he goes past Washington? Washington, I'm kind of like, yeah, let's take the swing.
Yeah, I don't hate that. Where are you going as a Wizards fan? High ceiling. That's what you need.
Yeah, you're just like, all right, let's go. Bub Carrington, Ace Bailey, Alex Sarr. Let's see what happens. Let's see what we got. Jordan Poole, maybe. What if Jordan?
Igor.
What if Jordan? Oh, Yegor. You know I'm a Yegor guy. He's been getting some bad publicity lately on these draft shows. People are not in on the Yegor stuff, especially Russillo right now. I listened to the Vicini pod while I'm driving cross country right now, and yikes, they are not big on Yegor. That's for sure. I mean, I get it. The shoot. Right now. He's late lottery. I'm not kidding. I think his range is anywhere from 7 to 8, all the way to 25.
I could see him being one that falls.
He might have the biggest range in this draft, to be honest. It's outrageous. Him and like Walter Clayton. Walter Clayton might go from like 15 to 35 for some reason.
I feel like Yegor is the type of guy. It's like if you get him at 21, you are thrilled. But if you take a swing on him at 7, it's like, oh man.
But it's like the Phoenix thing, though. If you're Phoenix at 10, you're like, man, what if Yegor develops a shot?
Yeah.
You talk yourself into that sort of thing. I think that's the kind of guy Phoenix needs to go after. Not necessarily Yegor in particular, but someone who has that, if this happens, he could be this guy. Because I think that's the only way you talk yourself. Because if you're the owner of the Suns or you're a GM or whatever, you have to sell hope to these fans and to that franchise. And no better way to do it than with a boomer bust guy in the draft.
You better hope he develops a jump shot if they take him. Otherwise, Devin Booker's going to be hitting the road in 6 months.
I'll tell
then
you what,
there's all
if Yegor Demon goes to the Phoenix Suns, he won't worry about having to take a jumper with Devin Booker, Dylan Brooks, and Jalen Green all on the same team. It is going to be his usage rate will be 0.
I saw a tweet as like Suns depth chart next year. Shooting guard. Devin Booker, Jalen Green, Grayson Allen, Bradley Beal, Dylan Brooks, and the rest of the positions are blank.
Jack in the chat said Nuggets trade up to get Caleb Love. Trade up?
Trade up. To what, the 57th pick?
Trading from where?
What's Caleb Love? Is he going to get taken in the second round?
I don't know. It's interesting you look at the second round guys, though, because it's all upperclassmen, all seniors, all 23, 24-year-old dudes coming from college basketball. Yeah, I've seen all these dudes coming from college basketball, like Sion James, Tyrese Proctor, Kobe Brea from Kentucky. Like all these, I think a lot of these dudes might play bigger roles than we realize, which why I kind of also don't hate the 5 second-round picks that Phoenix got. Now, is it overrated? For sure. But you might find a rotational piece in 1 or 2 of those picks.
Yeah, that is true. You get 5 chances to find a rotational guy. There's plenty of gems in the second round. You know, you get enough stabs at it, eventually you'll hit gold.
Find some shooters, man. There's some shooters at the end of this draft. I know their age doesn't look sexy. There's not a lot of, there's not a big
Johnson was
ceiling
26 coming into the draft, and look what he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But I'm so excited for the draft. So you're full on the Edgecombe train.
Yeah, I think Edgecombe and the Hornets would be a great fit. I think somebody like that, just a little toughness, defensive guy. You know, not the most polished offensive game right now, but I think that's something the Hornets have is shooters and ball handlers.
I have a sneaky suspicion that we end up getting a bit of a more boring draft, and Philly ends up going at 3 and taking VJ. I could also see Philly doing the gamesmanship thing, and they just end up taking Ace Bailey.
I don't know if you're Philly, you need somebody that can contribute immediately and play meaningful minutes. They're still trying to win a title next year. This isn't a rebuild. And I think it might have been Bassini that said it. Ace Bailey needs shots to develop. He's going to play 12 minutes a game off the bench in Philly. That's not going to help him. It's not going to help Philly either.
Yeah. Utah is interesting too, because I think Utah is in the trickiest part of the draft because let's just be honest about Utah. Do you really like any of their pieces outside of like Kessler and Markkanen?
And even so, even them, it's like, meh.
I like Kessler. Like if you're not having to pay Kessler a lot for you. If you're not having to pay Kessler a lot of money, like he's a starter, it's essentially the same thing as a Mark Williams on Charlotte or.
Why am I seeing his name in every mock trade right now then?
Because Danny Ainge is the GM running the show.
Valid. How many times are the Jazz going to rebuild without actually going anywhere?
Exactly. It's like, do you love Keontae George? Not at all.
No.
Keontae George screams kind of great value Anthony Simons, like, if we're being honest.
Yeah. I don't know what they do.
I like Collier. Backup point guard to me, though.
Okay.
He's fun.
Sexton.
Filipowski's a decent rotational piece coming off the bench.
Taylor Hendricks, their first rounder. Meh.
He can't stay healthy.
Right.
Cody Williams. No thanks.
I'm kind of out on Cody Williams, I'll be honest. I saw what I need to see.
No thanks on the Cody Williams train. And, yeah, that's why I think Utah, with Danny Ainge being there, I think Utah's going to overthink this pick.
I think you're probably right.
I think Utah gets the cutest in the draft. I think there's 5-6 dudes Utah's in the run for. Because I think if Ace Bailey's there, I really could see Utah just draft. I could see Danny Ainge just saying, I'm getting him. I don't care. That's my guy.
I don't hate that.
Or Jeremiah Fear seems like a Utah Jazz guy too. That seems like a Danny Ainge level pick. Also, Yegor's been in their backyard. They know Yegor very, very well with everybody in their BYU connections and being in the building every single day in Provo. But that's the problem. It's too high. You can't draft Yegor at 5.
I don't think so either.
If they trade back, I could see it. But if I had to guess, I think it ends up going Flag Harper, VJ Khan, Trey. And then I think Ace goes somewhere.
I think he goes 6.
Right after that. And then Malwatch has been another guy that's just up and down in these mock drafts.
Get rid of Claxton? I don't know.
Yeah.
That's tough. One other thing on the draft. Drake Powell mocked 28th to the Celtics right now. First rounder.
The one thing he's got going for him is his age.
Yeah.
But if I'm
Athleticism.
him, wouldn't I really just want to go make a butt ton of money playing college basketball for 4 years?
You think he's that type? I think he's got potential.
Okay, let's say he falls in the Filipowski range where it's like beginning of the second round.
Yeah.
You're not getting a lot of money at that point. You
Probably
probably would have made more money in 1 year at Carolina with your sponsorship money that you're going to get to, plus NIL.
Yeah.
At that point, I would just, if I'm going to end up being a second rounder, guess what? Your senior year, you're still probably going to be a second rounder. Why not just go make a crap ton of money from the University of North Carolina or whatever school? He'd have made $10 million playing college basketball.
Yeah, I think that's fair. But the only thing I would say about that, I don't necessarily think this is true, but what if this is as high as his value would ever be? What if he goes back to Carolina for year 2 and it's disappointing?
I still think even if you're disappointing, you can still get $1 million out of the portal.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't know. If he goes first round, it's probably the right move.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I'm not super high on Drake Powell, but
I'm not either.
I also think that Carolina fit wasn't necessarily the best for him, and so he wasn't in the best system to flourish by any means. So, and I think that's the case with a lot of Carolina freshmen, to be honest.
If he was a mediocre shooter in college, what do you think he's going to be in the pros? Is my only thing. Defensively, he'll be fine.
I don't know. Ryan Dunn seemed like Ryan Dunn was the worst shooter I've ever seen play college basketball, maybe, and
that's an anomaly.
He could take a jump shot.
That's not the normal.
That is not the normal. Anyhow, I'll be doing more NBA draft content later this week. Connor, I've got a cross-country drive to finish.
You sure do. You need to get some rest.
Yeah.
Are you driving more tonight? Surely not.
No. Staying in the hotel tonight. We're here right now. We're locked in. Gonna get the editing done and everything. We'll get this out there. And then tomorrow, I'm hitting Reds Yankees, Cincinnati. Ooh. I'm staying in Cincy tomorrow. And
Dylan going?
No, he is not. We had a scheduling conflict. We were the previous time I was supposed to go, he was going. But I'll be there for Reds Yankees tomorrow, and then Tuesday, we're finally going back home, going back to Carolina. So,
exciting. Carolina in my mind. James Taylor, put it on.
Yep. Shout out James Taylor. Anyhow, make sure to subscribe. Connor, the NBA season has come to a close, but the funniest part is, I think the NBA is the only sport where I feel like this. I'm not sad it ended because there's kind of a lot to do. The only reason I'm sad it ended is because there's no actual sports on my TV till week 0 college football, like Christian mentioned in the chat.
Right.
Outside of that, the free agency stuff, there's still a lot to be excited about the NBA at this point, to be honest.
The NBA is probably the only league where the drama, the trades, the offseason moves is arguably just as exciting as the actual on-the-court product. I don't think you can say that for any other sport.
Yeah, because people say that with the transfer portal, but I actually feel the opposite because I just want to see the actual games on the court in college basketball or games on the field in college football. I could not care less about transfer portal stuff in college football.
It's too much to keep up with in college. It's way too much. Too many teams, too many players, too many unknowns, too much.
Connor, have you started college football prep?
Oh, absolutely not.
No, it starts in like 2 to 3 weeks. I'll start ramping up on it, and you're gonna be like, Florida State is Thomas Castellanos. All right, I'm in. Yeah.
Sleeper in the ACC. And I bet me and Dylan have the same one again.
Oh, my gosh. But anyhow, make sure to follow. Make sure to subscribe at Karterkast on everything. Download SeatGeek. Use code Karterkast. $20 off your first purchase. $50 minimum purchase required. There's not a lot of sporting events to go to, but concerts, baseball games, you name it. Download SeatGeek. Use code Karterkast. $20 off your first purchase. Follow at Connor_Sparrow, at CarterBA, and at Karterkast on everything. I'll be back later this week with some NBA draft stuff as well. And then, Connor, I think we're going to be doing plenty of free agency pods here very, very soon.
I think you're right. I'm excited. Can't wait.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Bye-bye.